That's the value of our fourth station. Simon of Cyrene helps carry the cross. Matthew speaks of this assistance that's offered to Christ. Someone is drafted into service. Someone is told to live, to be part of a journey. This image is an icon to me. This becomes a sacred image of selfless service. One who is drafted into service, but then transcends being drafted into something holy. This is the work of Kathleen Leroy. This is Vernon Wyke. He's a medic. He's 19 years old, and his brother in arms here has died. And he risks his own life. You'll notice he's not wearing a helmet, attending to him when he most needs someone's arms around him. His way of the cross and his way of the cross are intersecting. What does it look like to be drafted into service? It can be heroic. This is the rest of the story. This is what Vernon Wyke looked like 4 years ago. Here he is at 19. Here he is a number of years later. He's currently living here in the Midwest. He's completely blind. He had a stroke 2 days after this photograph was taken. What becomes of Simon of Cyrene in our world? Veronica wipes the face of Jesus, not recorded in Scripture. She's the foil to Simon. The thought is that Veronica freely offers her services to Christ, her service of generosity. So we see the woman here attending to the figure with the cross. What you might want to know about Veronica at the time of Christ, if a woman were to appear publicly without her head covered, the assumption would be she was a prostitute. She's not modest. She's revealing herself in a culture where girls are given over to their husband when they're just out of their childhood, when they're 14 or 15. A woman of Veronica's stature here would not be thought to be a child. She's putting her reputation on the line to offer service. That's our meditation. Do we do anything to damage our reputation for the sake of helping someone else? Are we as brave as Veronica? Well, sometimes Veronica looks like this, and sometimes Veronica looks like this. This is the work of Fred Blackwell. This is from our American album. This is our family album. The Woolworth Counter in Jackson, Mississippi, the 28th of May, 1963. She wants what everybody else wants at Woolworth's on the 28th of May, 1963, a cherry Coke. But she won't get that. And she will be abused and denigrated, and she will suffer the prejudice of all these people. And there are two Veronicas that know they can't take on the crowd, but they refuse to let her suffer by herself. I'm thinking these would be magnificent graduation speakers at St. Norbert College. What has their way been in our world? Who is Veronica? This is very compelling. This would be the thought that Veronica offers her veil. The face of Christ is impressed upon this. It's a miracle. That's the tradition of the church. This can be boldly and vividly argued. But we have an image here that we know is Jesus because it looks like Jesus. But look again. This is an image made of one unbroken line. It starts in the middle and it works its way out. Fascinating what you can do with your imagination. What you can do with this and with this in combination with your heart. You can dazzle people. This is no bigger than a sheet of paper, and we find this at the Art Institute of Chicago, the work of Claude Milan. This, to me, is an interpretation of Veronica's veil. This is the work of Luis Palma, a Guatemalan photographer. In 1990, he created this image called The Crown. Who are we really looking at? A 5-year-old Guatemalan girl? We're looking at the very face of Christ, who is a 5-year-old Guatemalan girl. This is exactly the sort of images here that I think would promote a very healthy and a very constructive spirituality in our world. What do you notice about this young girl who's ordinarily ignored because of her race and gender and age? What do you see there that you can't stop gazing at? Her eyes. You get eye contact with somebody, you have the possibility for a decent exchange, for being known. How you want to hurt someone is to not look at them, to dismiss them, to judge them in advance, to walk by and look away. This is the power of the critical gaze. The idea that Christ looks at us. Can we look back? This to me is a stunning visual meditation on torture. We see the attribute of torture here in the crown of thorns. I feel they've lost their visual impact. It becomes a stock image. It becomes a prop that we use to signify Christ. Look how Luis Palma has interpreted that for our eyes. No longer the crown of thorns, but what is it? A measuring tape. How do we hurt people? We use numbers. You don't measure up. Your numbers don't add up to what beauty looks like, to what intelligence is. What's your number? Genius reinterpretation of that which we've not forgotten. Jesus falls a second time, not recorded in Scripture. Here we see this quite literally. This is a work of Annie Leibovitz. Fallen bicycle of teenage boy just killed by a sniper, Sarajevo, 1994. This boy has literally fallen through the agency of someone's prejudice, through the agency of someone's fear and loathing, to be no longer. This perhaps is how we continue to fall today, how Christ continues to fall yet again. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. Quite literally, there's the description, and we don't have to think much more of it than that, unless we choose to recognize those women all around us. This is the work of Add One Agency out of Boston. Their client was the Homelessness Commission in Boston. How can we make people more aware of homeless people in our own city? They created this campaign. What does it look like to you? A driver's license. If any of you people were to leave this church this morning and you saw what you thought was a driver's license, I'm wagering all of you would stoop down to pick it up, because you know how significant that is to someone's identity. You need to have that, or you don't exist, or you don't have certain services afforded you. It's not a driver's license at all. It's an ingenious way to stir your imagination, to recognize who's around you. The text, as you know, reads, keep your head down. Walk briskly with purpose. Avoid eye contact. Don't exchange pleasantries. Don't offer a spare cigarette. Don't even answer requests for the time. Just keep walking. This will effectively thwart muggers, deter rapists, and prevent the over 6,000 homeless citizens of Boston from feeling like human beings. This is a meditation on how important it is to see those who are around us and recognize their sacred presence. And I believe that's our mission. Jesus falls the third time, not recorded in Scripture. Well, of course, we might visualize it like this if we wanted to be completely literal. Or we might recognize Jesus falling the third time here. Jesus as a young girl on her way to a feeding station who is never going to make it. This is a work of Kevin Carter called Sudan. This was photographed not so very long ago, 1993. This is us. Predator and prey. He waited for this vulture to extend its wings before he scared the bird away and went to the aid of this child. He couldn't exorcise this moment from his own life, committed suicide shortly after he photographed this, leaving behind a letter saying he could not forget what he had seen and did not do.